Welcome back, and we're going to look at an introduction to databases in this video. So what is a database? So a database is an organised collection of data stored in a logical manner. So back in the day we used paper-based databases, but now we use electronic databases. So electronic examples might be an Excel spreadsheet, an SQL database, or an Access database. A paper-based one could be a calendar, telephone directory, Filofax. And the idea is that we've moved away from these paper-based ones because it's a lot more efficient, it's a lot easier to use, and it's a lot more secure having it on a computer system rather than a piece of paper somewhere. So where do we use databases? So hospitals will store patient data. Your TV will store databases of programs and what time they're on and what channels to what number and things like that. Schools will use databases to store pupil data. Libraries will store data on books they have and books they've lent out. And all websites pretty much will use a database of some sort. So they'll store shop data if it's an online shop, information, images, things like that, usually stored in some form of database. So why do we use them? So in a database we can easily sort things into alphabetical or numerical order. We can search really easily using databases. We can filter data to get rid of things we don't want to see. Data is really easy to share because if you're on a networked database, then everyone can use the same database at once usually. On a website, imagine if you had to wait one at a time for somebody to do some data, buy something maybe online, upload it to a website, and then you've got to do the same thing again. It'd take a very long time, it wouldn't work very well. Data is a lot easier to back up because it's in digital format, so you can copy it onto a hard drive or tape drive, stick it on the cloud, things like that. And we can validate data, so we can stop people inputting things that aren't correct. So if you want to put in someone's age and someone types in hello, then you can put things that will stop people typing in stupid things for certain fields. So some keywords that we need to know. We need to know what a table is. So a table is a structure in which data is stored in a database. So you might have a database that's got one table called student information. Now a record is a full collection of data about one particular thing in a database. So it might be people's name, their age, and their country of origin. So for me it'd be Reese, 27, and England. A field is one piece of data about a thing in a database, so just one column almost. So 27 would be a field for me in that example. And a flat file database is a database which stores records in a single table. So a database table here, we've got the whole table is highlighted there, then we've got one column is a field and then one row is a record. So you see in this one, Sadie's 28, she's British and her favourite colour is blue. A field that could be called age has 38 and 28 because that is all of the ages for everybody in this table. So a field is a column and a record is a full row. So a data type is the format in which a piece of data or a field is stored in. So we use these in programming and we also use them in databases, and the data types are slightly different. So in a database we need to set fields to a specific data type. So this is how, if you're using SQL, it'll know how to use different data types. If you're using Access, it's how it can process and manipulate that data. So for example, if you're typing in a bunch of numbers but you've told the database management system that it's meant to be text, it's not going to be able to use that properly. So we've got examples of text, numeric data, date, time, but there's also subformats or subtypes of each of these as well. So a subtype is how we sort of split to these data types into more specific needs. So numerical ones, you might have integer or decimal, so whole numbers or decimal numbers. You might have for date time, you might have a short date, a medium date, a long date. So it might just be 9th of June, but it might be 9th of June 1992, 12 o'clock in the morning. Things like that, we can be in different divisions to help us for what needs we have for the database itself. So we need to know about a thing called a key. So the two you need to know for the exam are primary keys and composite keys, but there's also two definitions that you don't need to know for the exam, but if you've got to pick a primary key in an exam question, there's things such as natural keys and surrogate keys, which I'll explain as well. So a primary key is a field that uniquely identifies the record. So you see here we've got patient ID, that would be a primary key. Now this is because if you could quite easily have somebody who's called David, who was born on the 8th of February 1987, who was also a male. That is a possibility, very unlikely, but it's possible that in one hospital you might have two people with the same name and same date of birth. But if you give them all a number, a unique number, that will identify this David from another David. So it's a way of making sure that each record is unique so we can find the specific thing we need or want. Now, a composite key is where there is no one field that makes a record unique. So if you're thinking about maybe a car brand, each car has its own special code. So you've got a Jaguar XJR, a Jaguar XKR, and so on. That would be a sort of natural, obvious primary key, because there shouldn't be two cars with the same name from the same brand, if that makes sense. However, as humans, think about the last example, we don't have numbers, we have names. So sometimes what we might have to do is group two or more fields together to identify a record. So where we can't have a number, or where we might not have a natural key because nothing's unique, we might have to group two or more fields together to identify the record. So it might be for an order, we need to have the product ID and the order number and the description together to identify that record. Now, a natural key is what I've spoke about on the last slide, which is it's something that is actually a property of something that identifies the record uniquely. So you might be a car registration number, bike registration number, car. If you think about the example of a car showroom, then it might be the individual model of each car. Now, a surrogate key is a field that identifies a record, but it's not a real thing. It's not an actual property. So we add it ourselves. So that could be adding a student ID. So at my school, I've got a number, even though I've got a name as well, but that number is a unique identifier, just in case there was somebody else at my school that was called Reese. So a relational database is a database that's got more than one table. So far we've looked at flat file databases. Now sometimes we'll have multiple tables because, as we said before, a database should be in a logical, structured order. So putting everything in one place might not always be appropriate. So what we do is we make multiple tables and we link them by their primary keys. So you see here I've got the company of the car, so BMW and Jaguar, and their countries. Now I've also got a list of the cars that I might sell. So I've got a Jaguar XJR, an XKR and an X5, and I can link these two tables together by the company. So I can say, right, I want to see all the cars that are made by Jaguar. I can just find all the ones that have got Jaguar in the company column and look at the models. Now usually, although not always, when you link two tables together, the primary key of one table will be the foreign key, so not the primary key, in another table. So you see the primary key in this table is car name, the primary key in this table is company, but you can see that the same field is in this table, and that's how you know they're linked, or how you know you could link. So sometimes if you're looking what could be the relationship, what could link these two tables together, usually you look for the same field in the other table. Now, by looking up the car company, we can see all the cars for sale. So, as I said before, so we've got BMW and Jaguar, and all the Jaguars and BMWs in this table here. But we could also link it up to another table which could show customer orders. So I can see that Mr. Smith's ordered an XJR, Mr. Noble's ordered an X5, and Mr. Turner has ordered an X5 as well. And I can see that those are linked. So this one is linked by company to this table, and this table is linked to the car table by car name. So you see primary key, foreign key, primary key, foreign key. And that's how we link up relational databases. So the benefits of this is that they're much more appropriate for larger databases, such as ones that are needed in larger businesses. Now this is good because data only needs to be entered once, but it can be used lots of times in the same database. Now, entering data only once reduces the chance of errors, so you're not going to be typing in the same record 50 times and getting it wrong sometimes by making a human error, because you're typing it in once. And if there is a mistake, you change it once on one table and it should update on all the other tables as well. Right, so hopefully you understood the introduction to databases, you know your keywords. I would definitely make sure you rewind the video, watch it again, make sure you've got a good understanding, because in the next video we're going to be taking a look at how we perform searches and use a language called structured query language. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.